Hey everyone, it's Andrew Morgan, host of the Nomcast, the Netflix original movie podcast. Each week we review the biggest Netflix original movies with special guests ranging from film professionals to comedians to podcasters like Johnny Ganache from the legendary Pina Comics. Listen and subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at NomcastPod.
Hi there, I'm Lloyd.
And I'm John, and we're from Pina Comics. As we dive into your favorite pop culture topics, we may just
Occasionally
use language that could be considered...
globaloney.
What? No, I mean...
Oh, foul.
Exactly. Offensive.
No doubt. Crass.
You bet your ass.
Sophisticated.
What? No. Anyways, you get it by now. It's mostly just
gutter talk.
And one more thing. Watch out for spoilers. Sometimes we drop them like trousers. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Pint-O Comics. Once again, I am Johnny Ganache. With me, the Manster, half man, half monster. Yeah, would you say 50-50 split on the man monster? Or
yeah, sure. Yeah, 50-50. Right up the middle.
Right up the middle. Right
Yep.
down the center. You're like Two-Face, except you're
I hope not.
yeah. You're not the hero we deserve, or whatever. I always forget that whole line. So, Ganache and the Manster hanging out with you yet again. This is a 100-proof book project. We're going to talk some comic books. Who better to have on than the gentleman we've had on recently several times, all the way from Pittsburgh, PA, as Huey Lewis says in that song, right? Isn't it Pittsburgh, PA? Yeah. Stu from Ghosts of the Stratosphere. What's going on, Stu?
Not much is going on. Actually, you talked about the Manster. I would like to let you know that I am 50% statue and 50% Big League Chew.
What is that?
That's where Stu comes from.
Is that what it is?
Yep, that's what it is.
All right. All right. Now, I got a question. Last time you were on, we discussed Pittsburghese a little bit.
Yes.
I want to get into this with you about your name. So,
My name?
I don't know how I started calling you Stu because your name is Robert Stewart, right?
Yes.
Now, Andy and Chad, do they call you Rob or Stu?
They call me Stu.
Okay, so that's where I got it
that's
from.
pretty much like Stu was kind of what people called me in high school or something, and that's when I met Chad.
Okay.
So Chad had moved out of the city for a while, got a job, and then he came back to the city. And whenever I met all of his friends, Andy and everything, I subsequently hung out with. Chad just introduced me to everyone as Stu, and so it's in my 30s I became Stu again.
Yeah, I never even knew your name was Robert. To me, you were S-T-U, Stu. Just
Well,
like Boogie was Stu. You know,
It's S-T-E-W. It's like
I
beef
go with the
stew.
U, though. In my
You like the
mind,
U?
it's S-T-U.
In your mind?
Yep.
I won't take that from you.
Does your wife call you Rob or Stu?
Rob.
Rob.
No, she definitely doesn't call me Stu.
Okay, yeah, because
That
she'd
would
be
be
Stu. She'd be Stu as well, technically. You know.
Yeah.
Did you ever? Are you like you were Rob or Stu? Were you ever Bobby? Were you the Bobby guy?
When I was like a little kid,
Yeah.
when I was a little kid, my family called me Bobby, and occasionally one of my cousins will still call me that, but that's about it.
I just wanted to get the nomenclature of Robert Stewart out there, everybody to know that that's who we're talking to today.
And you know what I found out? Literally just this weekend, it came up. I asked my family about it. The Heinz 57 thing.
Oh, yes, please enlighten us.
57 is the name of their steak sauce or something, like a certain kind of sauce they have. It's the Heinz 57 because I guess it has 57 spices or ingredients or something. It has nothing to do with the ketchup or the pickles.
Oh, okay.
But 57
Especially
is
not
a
the
different
pickles.
sauce of theirs entirely. So I wanted to clarify my error whenever I was speculating about pickles. I just like to eat pickles.
I like the A1 steak sauce myself.
Oh, A1 is delicious.
Yeah.
A1
So
is
salty.
Yeah, no, it's A1 or mustard for best condiment, I think. Big fan of both.
Well, But wait, not on a steak.
Not
right?
on a steak. No, just as a condiment.
No. Just as a condiment. No, I think one of the few things I don't put A1 on is steak, but I'll put A1 on everything else. It's good on a burger. It's good on just bread and then going into my mouth. It's good for a lot of things. It's good for crackers.
Right on a teaspoon.
A1 on crackers?
Yeah, why not?
Wow.
What else are you going to do with crackers? Get some saltine crackers? It's a little expensive for that, but
What about Worcestershire?
So apparently when I was a little kid, I really liked Worcestershire sauce on steak and what have you, but I obviously as a little kid, I couldn't say Worcestershire sauce. So apparently I would ask my parents for chocolate meat.
Chocolate meat.
that.
All right. Yeah.
I wanted
that.
chocolate meat on my
meat.
steak.
Funnily enough, if you visit Pornhub, that's a channel. Not that I would know. I have no clue. All right.
Still the babysitter porn.
So real quick, I want to give a shout out to something that's been going on for the last few weeks in our new quarantine lives that we're living. And it's a friend of ours who's doing it. And the three of us have been enjoying it weekly. Scary Larry Dwyer, every Saturday night, has been putting on these wonderful watch parties through his Connecticut Cult Classics Facebook page. Much like his goal in life, it's to torture people with terrible movies. So I thought it'd be a good few minutes just to talk about this because it's a great thing Larry's doing. It's bringing together, a lot of the same faces and new faces every week. And I wanted to kind of get your
every single Saturday.
Every Saturday, I look forward to it too. If you told me at 18 that every Saturday night at 10 o'clock p.m., I would be looking forward to sitting on my couch on my phone watching a movie, I would go, just fucking kill me now. But at 44 in quarantine, I'm really enjoying it. I just wanted to get your guys' opinions. So obviously, Manster, you're enjoying it. What are you digging? What movies have you dug in particular so far?
Oh, they're all real bad, but they're bad. They're so bad they're good. Samurai Cop. That was that has to be one of the worst movies ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised by how bad that was.
Yeah.
It looked all right. I'm sure it was the version we saw was remastered, but just the way it was made, man, that was rough.
Right.
And you didn't get the sense that it was like Sharknado or as they knew what they were doing and trying to make it bad.
Exactly.
I had no idea what order scenes should happen in.
I mean, the cue card reading was just off the wall.
I was reading about it the next day because I had seen Samurai Cop in the theaters with my wife for Riff Tracks. Riff Tracks did it a few years ago. So we went and saw that. So I was familiar with that movie to an extent. But I was reading about it the day after Larry showed it, and I was laughing because they, some of the IMDb trivia is that they only did one take on everything. And that's why there's so many line flubs in it because they just said, fuck it, go, move. Is that Fujiyama? That's like a line flub. Fuge. Stu, have you've been showing up the last few weeks? You're enjoying this as well, as I'm assuming?
Yeah. The Hell Night was a lot of fun.
Yes.
The Trick or Treat was a lot of fun. Society was not for me.
Oh, wow.
When you got to the end of Society, it was a bit too gross for me. But
yeah,
I am
was
on
gory.
perfect record now. I have not seen one of these prior to his event.
Every
single movie is the first time for me.
So I don't know when he started doing them, but the first one that I think he started a week before I was aware of it. The first one he did was, funnily enough, the week after we watched Dead Alive to do on the show. He did Dead Alive. So I watched it.
I didn't see that week either.
I watched that 2 days after watching it for the show. I watched it again.
No.
Other than that, the only other, I like Dead Alive. The only other ones that I had seen were Lady Terminator. I saw it in the theaters because he ran that a few years ago. And Samurai Cop. I never saw Trick or Treat. I never saw Hell Night. But the other beautiful part about these is it's very much similar to the Mystery Science Theater thing, where you're getting the same people watching week after week, and everybody's commenting as the movies are going, and we're starting to build our own vernacular of repeat jokes. There's
we're just making memes now. It's just occasionally we just sit there, and whenever nothing relevant's happening in the movie, you type white power,
white power. What was it? Gork. One of my other favorites was what's it? Shit, the pizza place.
Oh, Tony's
Pizza. It's just such a good time. So
get him. Shoot him. Get him.
Yeah. Shoot him. Keep It Warm. That was one of the better ones from this.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Keep it warm. The hero in Samurai Cop tells a female to keep it warm for him. And yes, exactly what you think he's talking about.
And then it cuts right to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a little bit of awkwardness there. A little bit of awkwardness. So if you are hanging out and when we put this out, if we're still in quarantine, go to Connecticut Cult Classics on Facebook Saturday nights at 10 o'clock and check out whatever Larry's showing. If we're out of that and it's over, then you missed out, but it was a great time. You can still go to www.connecticutcultclassics.com and check out Larry's all of his goodness. And if you're listening to this and somehow the news passed you by, for us yesterday, CT Horror Fest was officially postponed and or canceled for this year, which is put on by the folks over at Horror News Network. It is a great one-day con that we go to every year. And unfortunately, with everything going on, not happening. Smart move, right move, but it still sucks. 2020, a little bit of a void, but that's the news for today.
The whole year's a void.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the series that we're talking about today. Manster, why don't you tell everybody out there what we're talking about on this edition of the 100 Proof?
Well, today we are talking about Wolverine, Enemy of the State, Volume 1. So that would be the first 6 issues of it.
It's Volume 3 of the Wolverine title.
Right. The 2003 series?
2002 or 3.
Yeah.
This came out between 2004 and 2005. And if you're looking for it, it's in trade. But if you're looking for it, like let's say on Marvel Unlimited or Comixology, Volume 3 of Wolverine, 20 through 25. So those are the issues. And then there's 6 issues that are a different arc called Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. that finish the story off. But we're just focusing on the first 6 issues because I'm terribly lazy and had a hard time reading even these 6 issues.
Yeah, the next one's 7 issues.
Is it 7?
Yeah.
Stu, why don't you give us a writer on this one? Who's
this
writing
was
this one
written
up?
by Mark Millar.
Mark Millar.
You may know from Civil War. He's done a little bit of, I think, The Authority. He did Ultimate Avengers. He did Old Man Logan. And he's very Mark Millar.
Yes.
Yeah. I've read some Mark Millar, not any Marvel stuff, but a lot of Image stuff. He's done that. He's got that Millar verse.
Yeah, Kick-Ass, Hit Girl, Nemesis. What's the movie?
Wanted?
No, the James Bond kind of spoof. Kingsman.
Oh, Kingsman, yeah.
That was a Millar verse, Millar world thing. If you don't know Mark Millar as a comic reader, you're certainly going to know him in terms of the fact that if you've ever seen particularly the first Avengers movie, it is torn from the Ultimates, which was his version of the Avengers in the Ultimate Marvel Universe in the early 2000s. Very much a kind of a map for what they ended up doing in the Avengers film, right down to I think the aliens in the Ultimate Universe, because they weren't Skrulls, they were Skrull composites. They were called the Chitauri in the book too. So, and also, even though it's way different, the generalized idea of Logan, of a older Logan character, is kind of based out of Old Man Logan, which a lot of people call the movie too. If you ever talk to like people that are like comic fans, sometimes I hear that a lot. Old Man Logan. It's like, yeah, it's not Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan is a whole different thing. But so yeah, Mark Millar wrote this thing, and Manster, who was the penciler on this?
John's favorite, John Romita Jr.
One of my faves. I love Johnny. I love JR as they call him.
I'm very so on JR.
A lot of people are.
I think he's one of the guys that, like, I think when he's good, he's a good writer or he's a good artist, and he can add to a story. But man, his bad stuff is so bad.
Exactly.
When I think of John Romita Jr., I think of like 90s Uncanny X-Men and just how terrible it looked.
Yeah,
with, like, lines everywhere, and everybody was just square.
That's what I like about Romita is I like artists that have a style. You know what I mean? Like that you could pick out immediately. Romita is one of those artists. For me, I like that bulky, blocky kind of art, and I do agree. I think this is a guy who I do like some of his stuff from the 80s and 90s, but I particularly like the stuff that he's done, like kind of early 2000s and up. His art on the Amazing Spider-Man with J. Michael Straczynski was right when I was getting back into comic books, so it kind of took me in. Yeah, but he certainly is one of those artists that I know when I tell people I love him that I'm going to get like shit on. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. So these guys, this was before they ever worked on Kick-Ass. Eventually, after this, they would end up working on Kick-Ass together, which became a film as well. So if you know Mark, even if you're not a comic person, if you're comic parallel, if you watch movies and stuff like that, you know who Mark Millar is.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember how this came about in terms of
Don't
like.
forget the color artist,
Yeah, who was the colorist on this?
Paul Mounts.
Paul Mounts, right?
And
Right.
I think he really helped drive this book with the art. It meshed really good, the color and the pencil.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong, but I think he's colored for Romita before, maybe familiar.
Yeah, so he's got a
Jesus.
feel for him.
I have no reach for words today. Familiarity. Wow. You know what it is sometimes with this headphone microphone thing, I could kind of hear myself, and it like just a little bit puts a little bit of like 50-50. See, I can say it there, half split. Now I'm thinking about it. All right. So that's what we got for our art team and for our writer. And I guess why don't we just kind of get into, I like to give this one to Stu. He calls it something on his show. I don't want to get sued. So I'm going to say, why don't you give us the bumper sticker idea, Stu?
It's a quick one.
Yeah,
This is a real easy one. Wolverine is basically lured to Japan with a case of a kidnapped child, all with the intention that the Hand is going to abduct him and give him to Hydra, because the Hand and Hydra is working together to brainwash him and send him out to mass murder a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and kidnap other superheroes to bring under the Hand's control.
All right. Well, this has been Pint of Comics. Hey, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening. Yeah, you put it down right away. Very simple. I have two questions before we get into the story a little bit and what we liked and didn't like about it. And I'll ask both of you guys. So first of all, Lloyd, had you ever read this story before?
I have not. And I have only read a limited amount of Wolverine.
Okay.
I have an idea of who Wolverine is. There's my mess up.
Well, that lies into my second question, but I'll ask that in a second. Stu, had you ever read this story before?
So I actually have a longer answer to this than I should have. I have never read this story, but I play a cell phone game, or I don't play it so much anymore, called Marvel Puzzle Quest. And it's just a match.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
It's just like matching colored shapes 3 in a row or whatever. But it's a lot of the story mode in that is based off of comic book stories, and one of the story modes is Enemy of the State, and it's this story. Gorgon comes and kidnaps Wolverine, and then you're fighting against Wolverine for a while. So the beats are different in it. It's funny. Things happen in a different order in that game than they did in this book, and that kind of threw me a bit. But I had never read this story, but reading it, I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen.
Spoiled by a cell phone game.
By a cell phone game.
By matching colors.
Yeah.
All right. My answer is yes. I read this when it came out. So Wolverine is one of those books that since I've collected, always collected through good and bad. There's been bad and there's been some really great stuff, but I have read this. Now, question 2, and I think this is an important question, particularly because of the character. And much like I said for John Romita Jr., he's one of those artists that when you say, I love this guy, people will either agree or disagree. Stu, I'll start with you. How do you feel about Wolverine? Because he is one of these characters that people either like, he's too popular, he's great, I hate him, I don't care.
So growing up, Wolverine was my first ever favorite comic book character. I think I did a list on our site once where it was like the first 5 comic books I ever bought. And there was like a Batman, a Spider-Man, and then 3 X-Men books. Like 2 of them were prominently about Wolverine. Like I remember growing up and my dad telling me like, oh, you should get into Wolverine. He's a really great character. And I just started reading X-Men, started reading Wolverine, and I loved him. He was my first ever favorite character. The vast majority of my comic book collection growing up were Wolverine, X-Men, and the rest was pretty much Spider-Man. But then, in my 20s, I went through this kickback where it's just like I started basically hating this character because he was just everywhere. And there are parts of it in this book I want to get into, but I mean, he was unbeatable. They had really jacked up his power set to the point where he wasn't a fun, entertaining character. He was just wading into everything and being fine. And then kind of at the end of my 20s, they just started writing him better. And so I got back into him. So I still he'd be a top character for me that I like, but I have gone the gamut from loving him to hating him to now I appreciate him again.
And Manster, I think you kind of clued us in with your initial answer, but what do you got?
Yeah, I've read a few Wolverine stories, some pretty good ones. My opinion of him is not sullied by whatever bad stories or repetitive stories there may have been over the years. And I like the character. I like reading new Wolverine stuff that I don't really know about. This is good.
I'm a fan. I love Wolverine. It's one of those things where when I say that, yes, I love Wolverine, I feel like I'm that guy, I'm the Yankees fan or whatever. You know what I mean? Where people are going to be like, oh, you like the popular shit. I don't love all popular characters. I really don't. But honestly, Wolverine's the coolest X-Man. I mean, he really is. He's just a different character. Oh, fuck Cyclops. Honestly.
Oh, that was
Does
funny.
anybody actually really like Cyclops? That's a good question.
People have to.
Yeah. There's got to be somebody.
Putting him in books, right? They'd have killed him off a long time ago.
Well, didn't you really like him?
Well, no. She does, but I mean, Jean Grey likes him, but the thing that's even more crazy is that Emma Frost sleeps with him too. Yeah. It's this guy is a fucking dud altogether. Yet the two hottest chicks, two of the hottest chicks, I mean Emma Frost, Jesus Christ, what are you guys thinking? I don't know, Colossus is hotter than that guy, All right. Anyways, so I'm a Wolverine fan. So like Stu said, this thing starts off. Who is the bad guy, Lloyd? Who are we introduced to right away in this thing?
Right away. Do you want to go through all the major players in this?
Yeah. Why don't you give us everybody that's in this thing?
All right. Well, the bad guy I believe you're talking about is the Gorgon.
The Gorgon.
And Millar created him? Is that right?
I would assume. I've never heard of him before.
Yeah, I think he was created for this story. I'd never known him before this.
So you got Wolverine, the Gorgon, and then you've got the Hand, Hydra, and S.H.I.E.L.D. They're all involved. Kitty Pryde, Nick Fury, Elektra, Daredevil. The Fantastic Four show up. And then two characters are Baron von Strucker and Elsbeth von Strucker.
Elsbeth, yeah.
A little bit of Emma Frost, a little bit of Captain America, and Rachel Summers Gray.
Yeah, you get a bunch of the X-Men characters kind of in there. But so the Gorgon is introduced. This story starts off Wolverine, who was married to, what was her name? Mariko? Many years ago.
Yeah, I always said Mariko, but
okay.
However you pronounce it, yeah.
We're going to go with Mariko for me, Mariko for you. All right. So he was married to her. It was his happiest time in his life in Japan, and he lived a life there. He was a samurai, the whole 9 yards. She was killed. I think Sabretooth, right? Sabretooth kills her?
No, unless they brought her back. I remember in the 90s, it was just some story in Japan where she ended up getting poisoned.
Okay.
And I can't remember, because I can remember it was Wolverine number 57, 58, something like that. She gets poisoned, blowfish poisoned by the Hand, and she just goes up to Wolverine and she's like, this is going to be a shitty death. Don't make it happen. And so Wolverine has to claw her to, yeah.
Give her the old 1-2 as they call it, or the 1 through 6, whatever.
But if she came back from since then and had another death, I don't know anything about it.
I'm going back to the original.
Possible.
I'm going back to the original death. I just wasn't sure. I could have swore I thought it was. I know Sabretooth killed one of his women. Silver Fox, right? Yes. So Mariko, he's happy in Japan. She dies. He goes back to brooding with the X-Men. Her cousin, in the way this story starts, her cousin works for some kind of Yakuza gangster, and someone tries to kidnap the Yakuza gangster's kid, but accidentally takes the cousin's kid for ransom. And the family calls Wolverine in to help get this kid back. Long story short.
A very minor plot point.
Very minor, but that's
story.
This is generally the whole idea. I thought this was
important when I was reading it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it is. And then they dismiss it a few issues later when they're like, no, he's dead. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
They killed the
Yeah, we
kid.
fed him to the pigs.
Yeah. Wow, they killed the kid. All right.
Mhm.
This brings Wolverine over to Japan. It's all a big ploy. Hydra, the Hand, and what was it? The Dawn of the White Light.
Yeah, that's it.
The Dawn of the White Light. These three groups. Okay, so Hydra is obviously, we all know Hail Hydra. They are the secret serpent society of the Marvel universe. The Hand, if you're a Daredevil fan, that's where you mostly know them from. They are the Ninja Clan. They're the Foot Clan.
They're all undead.
They are not always all undead. I don't think.
They're weird. Like sometimes whenever you killed the clan, they just turned into dust or smoke or something.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're just kind of zombies and you just hack them up and they fall apart. The Hand's been weird throughout Marvel's history.
Yeah. In this story, they're zombies for sure. Because
Yeah.
when they're fighting, they're
Yeah,
ripping
they
them
bleed
apart.
green.
They bleed green. They're all rotted underneath.
The stench of death.
I do particularly like Romita's characterization, like how they're like kind of like bandaged up with the big bulky robes, and they just look like a more formidable ninja clan in this than they do sometimes. So you got the Hand, and then the Dawn of the White Light, which is some kind of Asian mutant cult that has. So these three, I guess, groups have gotten together, and they have decided, as Stu said before, that they're going to start killing superpowered heroes in the Marvel Universe, brainwashing them, bringing them back to life, or vice versa, however that works, and then using them to be their superpowered assassins. They trick Wolverine over into Japan. Wolverine is in a cemetery fighting off a horde of ninja Hand Clan, and then he gets very easily stabbed through the back by the Gorgon. The Gorgon's power, by the way, his mutant power, is that he can kill anyone he makes eye contact with.
He's Medusa.
He's Medusa.
Yeah.
Now I hadn't read this story in a long time.
He apparently has a ton of powers because I have read the second 6 issues of this. I read Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just because I got bored today.
Right.
And I read the rest of them. And he's got a ton of other powers. Like he's super strength. He can read minds. He got a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I got a sense of his telepathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
Okay.
these 6,
his-
you can get that.
His Gorgon stare seems to be his primary one, but yeah, he apparently, because Wolverine at one point even has a thought bubble that's like, how many powers is this guy packing?
See, I didn't read the remainder of this story.
Yeah.
'Cause I want to come back and do volume 2 here.
Yeah, we'll do
Yep.
we'll do a sequel right there.
Yeah.
First ever sequel episode to Pina Comics. He kills Wolverine with his samurai sword or ninja sword, whatever the difference may be. And the next thing we know, Wolverine is now wreaking havoc across the Marvel universe. He's basically terrorized. He's a terrorist. The Hand is sending him in to blow up banks and kill people, and he's just wreaking havoc. And Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. are doing everything they can to kind of keep
He does
him.
that nurse right away.
Yeah. He tricks his way onto a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier or I think a boat at that point.
Yeah, it's a huge
Maybe.
ship.
Huge ship. Yeah. Now I want to say this about this. So he's in the infirmary, and he's kind of faking because they don't know yet he's been brainwashed. He murders the hell out of a nurse and then starts wreaking havoc on this boat. He kills a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and then he ends up in kind of combat with Elektra, because Elektra is contracted by S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point.
Right.
They're kind
He's
of
a freelancer.
He's a freelancer. Now, I wanted to point this out. This is in my notes. If we can't
I
get,
hope this is the same note that I think it is. 'Cause
It might be.
be the same note I took.
if we can't get you to read this story by talking about the story, here's how I'm going to sell it to you. If you've ever wanted a full splash page of Wolverine killing a shark with all of his claws, I have got a book for you, my friends. What's your note, Stu?
No, my note was, and I checked the timeline on this, and I could be wrong, but I mean, the timeline really seems to fit. This is Skrull Elektra.
Oh, wow. Because this is before.
'Cause this happens in 2005, and I think the Marvel Illuminati issue that reveals Elektra was a Skrull came out in 2006.
Okay, so Mark Millar wrote Civil War, which was a big Marvel event later this year, right? Or in 06. In 04, was it 04? Or was
I think Civil War was 04.
Well, no, Civil War was 6.
Oh, it was 6,
Secret
okay.
Invasion, which is what we're talking about. Secret Invasion,
Right.
was prior.
2008. No, Secret Invasion was after. But the issue that revealed Elektra was a Skrull, like they had started hinting to Secret Invasion years ahead of time, was 2006.
All right, very good.
According to, my quick research anyway.
So Secret Invasion, Lloyd, was a story arc. I think Bendis wrote that one.
I think
that was
so.
Basically, we find out that the Skrull army, Skrull, collective, whatever you want to call them, has infiltrated the Marvel Universe in whole. And there are certain characters that have been Skrulls for a long time. And the big reveal in this is that Elektra was one of the princesses or queens, right? And she had been in the Marvel Universe a Skrull for years.
Yeah.
So Stu's right. This very well might actually not even be Elektra.
Yeah, like I'm sure Mark Millar didn't know that when he was writing it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
Was he aware of that when he was writing this? That
you see all the stuff Elektra goes through. It's like, why would a Skrull be putting herself through this?
Yeah.
She'd just be like, fuck it.
Well, unless she was really committed to selling it,
I guess.
All right. Well, your note is much smarter than mine. Like I said, my note is just like, what you want to see Wolverine kill a great white? Boom.
Yeah, that was excellent too. I appreciated that. I don't know at what point I was reading this and thought, what's the timeline on this? I'm curious. Because Elektra appears so infrequently in the Marvel Universe as it is.
One of the things I liked about this book was that Elektra was kind of a main character.
Mm-hmm.
And she is not used a lot. And when she is used mostly, it's in Daredevil. It's not in like a series like this. And the other thing about this book is that this takes place in Wolverine. Logan is Wolverine. It's not X-23. It's not Dakin. It's Logan. Yet meanwhile, this is not a Logan central book. Logan is the villain. So we have switched viewpoints in this book to the protagonists or whoever we're following issue to issue. And Logan is the threat. So that's kind of an interesting part of this story is that it's 5 or 6 issues where it's called Wolverine and we're not following Wolverine. We're waiting for him to show up. Right?
Yeah. But when he does show up, we get his thought processes.
Yes. And what's interesting, Lloyd, about Wolverine's thought processes in this?
Well, he still has faint memories of who he really is and who his allies are, but he's acting against them because he's been reprogrammed by the Hand or Hydra or whoever did that. And he has different thought bubbles. He's got, I think, a green one, and that's the one where he's the Hand, but then he's got white ones, and that's when he's thinking his own thoughts.
Right.
It's very interesting.
It's very cool to see that like dichotomy of what he's thinking and what he's actually saying and what like the evil Wolverine's just telling. But there's one point towards the end, I'm trying to remember where
he has a moment of clarity when he's fighting Daredevil.
Yes. He has a moment of clarity where he fights Daredevil, but there's a moment where he's threatening Rachel Summers at the end where he is like, he's getting pervy on her. Yeah. He's like, oh, she looks and smells.
That was a little difficult
like her mom.
to read.
Yeah. Well, and obviously Wolverine's obsession is Jean Grey and Rachel Summers. Right. Stu, I'm going to go to you for this. Is she a clone or is she
Rachel is from the future. Yeah, she came from the future because in the future she was Ahab's slave and she was a hound who actually hunted mutants for Ahab. I'm not sure how she got into the past. Like, I've read all the X-Men and I don't remember how she got there. But yeah, she comes from the future. She's from a different timeline.
Okay. She's
the one I always get confused because you mentioned that she's Jean's daughter, and I had to think about it for a second and go, yeah, she is. It's Cable who is not Jean's kid.
Cable is
Madeline's kid.
Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, right? Lloyd, are you
X-Men kids and everything?
I'm lost.
I'm going to say, Lloyd, at this point in your life, Lloyd, I'll tell you, keep reading comics. You love them. You enjoy them. Don't start digging into X-Men shit. It is so convoluted, and it's just, there's futures.
I actually have a big omnibus of new X-Men.
Well, that's the one to read, in my opinion. That's the Grant Morrison one.
Yes.
And it's weird, but it's really solid, in my opinion. It's when you get anywhere outside of that. I just recently sold, except for new X-Men, my entire X-Men run. Gone.
Oh, wow.
Gone. And I didn't have much. I had a long box, but all gone.
Okay.
get this out of my life. I have to start making decisions, and that was one of them.
There are chunks of X-Men, like Claremont wrote X-Men for like 20 years, and
Yeah.
the vast majority of that is great.
There's a lot of good. His writing style drives me nuts with the constant if I turn to organic steel now, I will, like, all right, dude.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I loved it. When I read it now, it's like, boy, this is a lot wordier than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But Morrison's X-Men, I didn't appreciate at the beginning, but I'll be honest, and I take a lot of heat for this, I don't like Frank Quitely, so I think it was throwing me off. It was once Quitely left that I started getting more into it. And then Whedon's run, which basically is right after Morrison. That's great.
Whedon, I kept that as well. Yeah. And there was another one I did like, but I did sell my collection. Who wrote it? Ed Brubaker. When they went to space with it ended up being the one where Vulcan came in.
Vulcan's there, and
but
Rachel's
I liked that run.
And,
I liked that run. It wasn't as good as the other two, but it was a good run. Rise of the Shi'ar Empire. I think that
something like that.
Yeah. I might buy that and trade at some point, but I was okay with letting the issues go. So Wolverine is breaking up the Marvel universe, and he eventually ends up. This is one of my favorite parts of the whole run, is when he ends up in the Baxter Building with the Fantastic Four.
I like that. I think it was the splash page at the end. You just see him sitting there behind the grate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great picture.
Yeah.
I just love the idea. So I made a couple notes in here that I just thought were quite funny. One of them that I liked a lot was, so Wolverine breaks into the Baxter Building because his evil overlords are telling him to. He's there to basically download some of Reed's work and steal this terraforming device, right? Basically, that's gonna, it's meant to take an arid place like the desert or Mars and make it habitable. The Hand are going to do something nefarious with it. And of course, it's built by Reed Richards, so it's light years ahead of everything else. I like the fact that when Wolverine is there, he's having a conversation with himself, and he says to himself that, now you got the Thing, you got Mr. Fantastic. So the Thing, a giant boulder man, Mr. Fantastic, maybe the world's smartest man, and he's a gum band as Stu would, right?
Stretch Armstrong.
Stretch Armstrong. The Human Torch, who could burn hotter than the sun, basically. And then Sue Storm, who turns invisible. But she has that great force field power.
Yeah.
And there's a little piece of internal dialogue where he says he's not worried about the other three at all. Mm-hmm. He's worried about Sue Storm. And he comes up against her at one point, and she almost takes him out by what does she do?
She puts two force fields in his lungs.
Yeah. She
and then she blinds him.
Yeah. Turns his optic nerves invisible.
Yeah.
And then puts two force fields in his lungs. And meanwhile, he had almost no problem taking Johnny and Ben out, and kind of had a weird fight with Reed.
The Romita art of the Thing.
Yep.
Not that great, especially the static ones where he's just standing there, at some console, and he's just got this really smooth looking, blue jumpsuit. It wasn't great. I'm just going to say that.
I'd have to look at it. I'd have to look at it again, but I'm going to go ahead and say fuck you.
So the action scenes are good. He was good at drawing the action scenes.
Action scenes, I think, are handled really well in this.
Yeah, no, for as much as I don't often like John Romita's art, I think he's really good at storytelling in his art.
Yeah.
Like that's not a craft that a lot of artists often have. Like things don't seem to tell the story as they go, but John Romita does. I don't often like the way everyone's square or has 38 lines on their face.
Yeah.
Everyone's square.
But no, I have two notes here. And the one is, in case you forgot that Mark Millar wrote Civil War, he reminds you here because Mark Millar hates Reed Richards. He just constantly makes Reed Richards out to be the world's either biggest coward and idiot or douchebag. Because there's a scene here where Reed is like, so my wife who's had 2 kids, I just want you to know that whenever I invent a machine, that's more painful than childbirth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like, really?
Thanks, Stu, because I was going to ask that question. He doesn't seem to know how to write Reed.
Well,
From
no.
what I've read, it doesn't seem true to me.
Well, here's the thing. Reed is a dickbag, right? Reed is not the best family guy on earth. He has noble intentions, but his family suffers at the end of it all the time. Like that goes back to the original story. I mean, he drags these people along, whether they're willing or not. Like, I don't know. Is your kid brother-in-law the right guy to go to fucking space with you? All right.
I guess I've read more of the more recent Fantastic Four.
Well,
I haven't gotten a lot.
I'm going to agree with you on the other half. He writes him extremely dicky. Like there's like Stu brought that up. I wrote down in a note a line here where it was the whole idea that she asked Reed to read the kids a bedtime story.
Yeah.
He goes on to explain how instead of just taking 15 minutes to read to his kids, he devised this massively complicated AI system that would have taken more, no matter who he is, it must have taken way more time to devise to answer specific questions to fool his kids to think they're talking to daddy.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
He does all this, but that is something Reed would do. I just think the bluntness of it was a little bit turned up. Like the Sue thing,
harsh the way it was presented.
The thing where he says the childbirth thing, I actually went, whoa.
Yeah.
But that's Mark Millar's Reed, though. He's always just been like, I hate this character. I'm going to make this character as unlikable as possible.
Huh.
The other note I have from this section is, and this is just kind of a Wolverine thing. This is one of those things where whenever I hit my 20s and started reading more books where I was just like, do I hate Wolverine? I might hate Wolverine is you have a character who simultaneously is written to believably fight the Hulk, who is simultaneously believably written to enter the Baxter Building and fight the Fantastic Four, but then also have a completely even fight with Elektra or Daredevil. And it's like, do you not understand like our level? Like this guy can't, get taken to school by Elektra and then go and take out the Fantastic Four. Like,
what does she do? She like jabbed him and she did like a Vulcan death grip or something.
Yeah, like she nerve pinched him with her size, and then Daredevil has a really even fight with him, and it's like, and those are the weird things. I know, like Chad and Andy would look at me like I have three heads because these are the things they don't care about at all. But I read comics, and it's just like, this character cannot fight the Hulk. Like, the Hulk should be as far above Wolverine as Wolverine is above me.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing there. Okay.
And then, like, some writers like, oh, he can believably fight Daredevil, but then he can also believably enter the Fantastic Four's lair and take them all out. It's just like, this is taking me out of the book.
Well, he only escaped that because of some explosions, right? Like a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, there was trickery involved, but I mean, at the end of the day, he mano-a-manoed with Reed, Thing, and Torch all at different points.
Right.
And took them all out.
I like a couple of the storytelling devices they use here, and they use it as the book goes along. The Hand, Hydra, Dawn of the White Light, whatever this group is called.
AIM. Yeah. That was another thing they mentioned.
Well, they bring AIM into it at one point, yeah. I like the fact that they have their little teleporter that they could hop him out of situations. Yep. But when he was in the Baxter Building, they could only jump him like only 60 feet. So he kept on ending up like just in different rooms of the Baxter Building. The other thing I liked, and this is just straight up Fantastic Four science, was when Wolverine attacks and the alarms go off, Sue Storm sends the kids 20 minutes into the future to protect them.
Right.
That's simply just beautiful, weird FF science. But just the idea and how she said, oh, I'm going to send the kids 20 minutes in the future. That should be all done by then, right? Like, that's cool. That's just comic book cool.
It's weird, though, too, because, I mean, I don't know if that's gravitas or whatever, but it's like, you don't know what 20 minutes in the future is. Wolverine could nuke your building 20 minutes in the future.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Send them to the past.
And then how do you catch up to them? They'll always be 20 minutes ahead.
They'll always be 20 minutes ahead of you.
Kind of loud.
No, it's like Back to the Future. No, Back to the Future. And Doc puts Einstein in the time machine. He syncs the clocks.
They're going to be trapped there in a bubble for 20 minutes.
He sends Einstein 1 minute ahead in the future. The time machine takes off. There's no Einstein. When real time moves forward a minute later, boom, 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 he pops back in. So when they would get 20 minutes into the future, the kids would just fucking appear there.
We're arguing about time travel.
Yeah, I know. I know.
And the kids will always be 20 minutes younger than they should actually be.
Right.
They have to move their birthday up 20 minutes. They
miss the most important 20 minutes of their lives because their parents are dickheads. So he steals he ends up getting the information. He gets the terraforming device. I want to bring this up real quick because I thought this was kind of funny. This is where so Stu gets brought out of it by an actual implausibility, right? So, like, how could the
I
Hulk...
care too much about power levels and consistency in that shit.
And that's fine. But here's one that I thought was weird. So Wolverine off camera attacks a consulate or something like that, and a bunch of SHIELD agents go, and one of the SHIELD agents says, he killed Spider-Man. Spider-Man's dead, right? And obviously we know as readers it's not Spider-Man, but you're still like, well, who did he kill? They take the body bag off.
Oh.
And the whoever it is, Fury or whoever it is, like that's not Spider-Man. That's the
Hornet.
The Hornet from the Slingers, one of Spider-Man's like little groups from the 90s. In the MCU, as a trained SHIELD agent, or as someone that stands on the fucking sidewalk in New York City, you're telling me they don't know what Spider-Man looks like?
The guy they show doesn't look anything like him.
That truly bothered me. Like, so that would be like that. I hate to say it. I hate to use his name, but that would be like living in America and going, well, that's Donald Trump. It's like, no, that's not fucking Donald Trump, because everybody knows what that clown looks like. So everybody in the MCU or in the comic universe, the 616, should know what Spider-Man looks like.
Yeah.
And it ain't the fucking...
There should be no mistake.
Right. So that part
this
took me
Hornet
out.
guy has like a glass face shield and a half mask and it's purple. At what point do you look at this guy and think, oh, that's probably Spider-Man?
Yeah. No, I wasn't feeling that. I wasn't feeling that at all. But that's okay. What are some bits in this book that really stand out to you, Lloyd? What's some stuff in this story that like really, like, wow, I dig that.
Well, the Elspeth von Strucker.
Hot.
Yeah, really hot. 175-year-old.
She bangs Gorgon. She cucks her husband.
She cucks her own husband.
She makes him play music on the piano while she fucks this guy.
Yeah, play me a nice tune while I make love to the Gorgon.
Yeah.
Why?
That's awesome.
Was this just a weird Mark Millar thing? But like, why is Satanism in this book?
Yeah,
Elspeth is just like, hooray,
they don't
Satanism.
really go anywhere with it, unless they do in the next volume.
I mean, do you want to know?
No, I don't want to know.
Oh, okay.
At one point, they're talking about what's her name? Elsbeth?
Elsbeth.
And I think someone says, like, it's all about, like, it names a bunch of stuff, and Satanism is in there. What's that?
Doing a little dialogue.
Yeah. And she mentioned Satanism. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just supposed to be maybe that she's, like, into anything.
And she's a chess genius. That is also mentioned.
As Satanists are wont to be.
Yeah.
Well, I guess one of the other questions that I had, I guess he's more, I'm assuming, of a Cap villain. But is Von Strucker always that old? Baron Von Strucker?
I have not read enough Cap. You're right. He's basically a Cap villain, I think. And I've not read enough Cap to know much about Von Strucker. It
just seemed to me, from stuff I've read in the past, that he's not like an 80-year-old guy. Yeah. Okay, so maybe Millar just said, fuck it, I'm doing what I want to do with this, or maybe we're totally wrong. There's someone listening going, Von Strucker's a 90-year-old man since 1967, you fuckers. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, it's pretty clear that Elsbeth is the one actually running Hydra and not Wolfgang.
Yeah. I like how they make it a point, like they have, it's almost like a retail operation where I work, where like they have like year-over-year numbers, because they keep mentioning, well, since she took over, we've doubled the amount of capers we've pulled off. Like there was like from like 02 to 03, Hydra was at like a 22% caper level. We were not pulling off many. Since Elsbeth took over, we're up to 47%. All right. She's doubled plus 3%. And we're in the black again. So let's
selling a lot of membership cards.
Yeah. I don't know. It was weird. It was definitely weird. Stu, what's some of the stuff that stuck out to you?
The brutality of it was really interesting because, I mean, Wolverine as a character has always had that about him, but through most of his history, he's been a very PG-13, like, he's a hard ass. He's always talking about killing people, but it either happens way off panel or he ends up just bopping them on the head and knocking them out. But in this book, he's killing the fuck out of everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going through and you're seeing him like running people through. There's a lot of blood for, you know, a Marvel book. And was this Marvel Knights or was this just okay? So
This
that's
was
probably-
Marvel Knights.
Okay. So I'm sure that's why. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of brutality, a lot of violence in this. And I think one more note I had, because we haven't gotten to where he fights Daredevil, but I thought it was hilarious. We just earlier were talking about like, oh, which of Wolverine's girlfriend did Sabretooth kill? How did Mariko die? What's Wolverine's relationship with Jean and Rachel? Fucking Wolverine, of all the people in the Marvel Universe, is giving Daredevil shit for sleeping around.
Yeah.
Really? You're playing that card?
Not even just giving him shit. So it's like, it seems like it's an internal dialogue, right? Like Wolverine almost isn't talking through this whole book. Everything is internal.
It's a lot of internal dialogue.
Yeah. But like, did you notice? So in that scene, he's kind of seems like he really doesn't like Murdoch. He's like, you know, lives in this fancy $2 million loft and, you know, but I'm sure he can afford it because he's, you know, he's a fancy lawyer. But then he starts going on about the whole thing about Murdoch's women, Elektra and Karen Page, and he brings up
he alludes to Typhoid Mary, I think.
Typhoid Mary, yeah, and maybe even Black Widow at one point. But like the thing that I thought the same thing as used to, but I thought it a little differently, is he makes a comment in there where he's like, you know, why do all these like basically grade A pieces of puss dig this guy and not me?
Yeah.
It's like, meanwhile, Jean Grey has liked you at one point, Mariko, Silver Fox, you're banging everybody he hasn't banged, you're banging.
Yeah.
I'd
like
rather
Wolverine's been with Lady Viper.
Right.
Yeah, like he's been Yukio, he's been all over the place.
I'm trying to think of any Marvel character like that could deservedly say that. Like, even like, I don't know, man, even Colossus has been banging Kitty Pryde. Like, I'm just trying to think like any character that had less luck with women. Wolverine, he's like, you know, oh yeah, what do they see in him? Oh, and I can't get nothing. It's like, dude, I know you're
What are
dead.
you talking about?
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Not to mention, Matt Murdock is always been drawn to be a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
He's a ginger. We know people like that. And you're a goddamn like half munchkin, hairy
Yeah.
brute. And these chicks
I think that he's pissed off. That's why.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't get the respect that Matt Murdock gets.
That was part of the Hydra brainwashing. They made Wolverine an incel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went online after he was killing all these SHIELD agents and complained about women.
I'm gonna hold on to my virginity forever. So yeah, the Daredevil, he gets, I guess, brought in to assassinate Daredevil. That's what we think, right? And
Kind of a triple cross going on here.
it is. It's a triple cross because he gets brought in with the thought that he's going to assassinate Daredevil, right? And Daredevil has been clued in to the fact that he's coming for him. But Lloyd, who is the Gorgon and the Hand actually there to take?
The real target here is Elektra.
Yes.
Because I guess they figured Elektra would figure out what was going on, and she's got a sniper rifle, on the roof of a building across the street, and so she's planning to take out Wolverine. Unbeknownst to her, Gorgon is planning to take her out.
And he does.
Yeah.
He does. I liked that one splash page quite a bit where it's basically him after he's beaten her and she's on the ground, but then all around the edges of the splash is the fight, where it's just like, him kicking the crap out of her. And then eventually we get to the point where they show her on the altar and we know that she's going to be coming back in the second half of the story.
I like the point where she realizes he's there and he tells her, look away, so he can look at all the other agents. They all just, die right there.
Well, that's the first time we see his power.
So they can fight.
Yeah. That's the first time we see his actual Medusa power.
Yep.
Is because he's wearing sunglasses the whole time. He takes the sunglasses down, and two of the agents just immediately turn to stone.
Yep.
And he takes her out. That was a good little bit there. Who else does he end up running into, Stu? Who else do we have him fighting in this thing?
Well, he fights the X-Men. He gets to like Jean Grey, Rachel, like we said, and that's another one of those weird power level things that just bothers me. It's like Rachel should have no problem with him whatsoever. Although she does eventually trick him and And he hooks Rachel up to a machine so that she can. He hooks her up to Cerebra so that she can channel the president and basically just explode his brain. But she outsmarts him and channels Reed Richards instead, and figures out how to telekinetically take apart the terraforming device that he's using to threaten her. Like, oh, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to terraform the school and everyone's going to die.
Right.
And then, the X-Men kind of come out en masse, and he starts like bopping around 60 feet at a time again, to try and get away from them.
He flies. I was confused by this bit. He flies the Blackbird into
yeah.
Is it so? It's out. Was it out? I couldn't tell. I was confused by that drawing.
Why is it out?
It looked like he was flying it in.
Yeah.
From the way I was looking at it, and
I
then
thought he was coming up from the basement through, but like you said, the art was a little confusing there.
What you're saying makes more sense because that's what he does, right?
That's what Stu said.
But at the same time, I think it's Emma says, well, he's not going for the roof. We come straight up from the basement. That's kind of like going for the roof.
Yeah. And he apparently can't fly it very well because he essentially just crash lands in the woods, and then all the X-Men like go after him. You mentioned Emma real quick. I want to point out a line that I loved in this book was earlier, before all this, when we first see Cerebra, Emma and the Stepford Cuckoos and a bunch of the X-Men characters are getting together at Cerebra, I think, if I remember correctly, to try to locate him.
Mm-hmm.
And Emma is talking about Elektra, and she references her as the Greek tycoon's daughter with the ever so slight mustache.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was fucking great because that was perfect, Emma.
I've never noticed that, but
Emma's
that
a
was a great
super
line.
bitch.
Yeah,
super bitch.
That's very good, Emma. Because there's a very Whedon-esque piece of dialogue where Emma's talking to Kitty, and then Kitty realizes, like, wait, your mouth's not moving. Are you talking in my mind? And Emma says, oh, I've had a sore throat. And Kitty's like, maybe you should put on more clothes.
Yeah, it's a little drafty in here, you whore.
Yeah.
I had to scroll through here because I didn't want to spoil anything. I wasn't sure it happened in this volume or the next volume. But yeah, then you get to the end of fighting the X-Men, and he kills North Star.
He kills the shit out of him.
The X-Men had really been pumping the tires up for years at this point, really turned him into a relevant character. So
yeah, see, when I read this, I had no idea who North Star was.
Yeah, like throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s, he was just some geek up in Alpha Flight that nobody cared about. But then right around 2000, they brought him onto the X-Men team, and they did a lot with him. And he was the first mainstream comic homosexual wedding kiss. I forget which one, but he did get married at some point. Yeah.
All right.
He might have been the first character to come out, too, in a big 2 comic. I have a feeling he might have been.
What was that? Midnighter?
Midnighter is
in the Authority.
in the Authority in Wildstorm. So, and he was gay. Written by, well, not created by, but written by Mark Millar. The Midnighter and Apollo.
What's the time frame on that?
1999.
I was gonna say early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah, and they're a couple, and so that was in Wildstorm before it was bought DC. So maybe that's considered indie. And I could be wrong. I know Stu's right. The North Star either is the first character to either come out as gay in a Marvel book. He definitely is the first one to get married.
Yeah.
Another male character. And I, not making fun of it, but I did think 2 things. First one is Wolverine killing him is a double hate crime. He's a mutant and he's a homosexual.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And I kind of had this thought, and I don't want to get too far into it, but in 2005, was the fervor that bad as if that happened today? Because if that happened today, everybody would be bombarding Marvel's editorial with "you killed the gay character." You know what I mean?
I mean, that's why nowadays we have people bombarding the letters pages, because this is what writers have done for years.
Yeah.
Find the gay character and kill them.
I guess I just wonder if there was a backlash to this back then. I don't remember.
I don't remember it. But I wasn't reading a lot of Marvel when this came out, so I don't really particularly know that I even would remember. I'm sure there was at least a minor one, but yeah, I mean, nowadays, this has become a trope enough in society where even if it's not distasteful to do it, it's just bad writing to find the minority, find the gay character and kill them, so.
Right. Oh, and he's Canadian. So that's there's a lot of groups that you're pissing off here. The mutant group, the homosexual group, and the Canadians.
They'll forgive you. Canadians will forgive you.
Funnily enough, Alpha Flight fans, there's so few of them, nobody cared. Nobody was like, what if we...
This would have been a year or two after Bendis just killed the hell out of Alpha Flight in New Avengers anyway. So yeah. I'm not even sure Alpha Flight still existed at this point.
Yeah, that might be why he's on the team. I know his twin sister, Aurora, I think died in that whole thing. So
I know she has since come back.
Yeah, well,
there was an X book there was Amazing X-Men in the mid 2010s that she and North Star were both in. So they both come back somehow.
Always. So at the end of this arc, at the end of the 6 issues, Wolverine does come back to us. How do the forces of good regain Wolverine?
Well, he's bouncing around, 60 feet at a time. They're running through the woods. Everyone's trying to capture him. And I forget what puts him down, but it was Cap that comes over and just smashes him with his shield. And he says something witty, take that pain or something like that.
He says, heal this.
Yeah, he's down for the count.
Heal this. And then what does Falcon say? Like, damn straight. Or he says something.
He says respect.
Respect.
I'm right on those pages, so I just had to look over. He's like, wow, respect. Wait, was Falcon even in this book?
Go ahead. Hard if you could put down Wolverine with one shot.
Was Falcon even in this story until that panel? Like all of a sudden?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He was earlier when Cap was taking out one of the hand cells. It's a few quick panels. He catches the shield. He reports back to Fury, and Falcon is like in the background. So yes, technically he was there, but he did not. Yeah, he didn't have to be there.
That was Sam's career for like the first 30 years of his existence.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame too. He's actually a pretty good character. I like that.
The MCU has done wonders with him.
Yes.
What is the actor's name? Anthony Mackie, is that who plays Falcon? Yeah, he's really good in that role.
He is. And a couple years ago, they did a Captain American book that focused on Sam. Mm-hmm. It was at the same time as the other Cap book that was focusing on Steve. But I read the other one. I enjoyed it. It was good. I like the fact that they didn't, yes, they had a book for Steve as well. But when Steve came back, they didn't just go get rid of Sam. Yeah. Now, they did, after a while, make him Falcon again, which you could have 2 Captain Americas in the same world, but
he has like 50 Green Lanterns.
Yeah. Or he doesn't have to necessarily be Falcon. He could be like the new U.S. agent or something, but whatever.
Right. U.S. agent.
U.S. agent. John, what's his name? John Walker. Is that U.S. agent, Stu? You know that one?
Sure. Let's go with that. No, I don't remember.
I think it's John
remember
Walker.
The character. Like he was in West Coast
Buford
Avengers,
Pusser?
but I don't remember his name.
Did you say Buford Pusser?
Yeah.
All right. So Wolverine at the end of the 6 issues is recouping. They're, I guess, bringing him back to life on the SHIELD helicarrier. And Captain America kind of is talking to Fury. And Fury, what does he say? He's like, we've got our murder machine back.
Yeah, they're going to use his ass.
Yeah. So now we're going to tilt this story into, I guess, becoming, I haven't read it in a long time, a Wolverine versus the Hand opposite effect. So we'll talk about that sometime. So are there let me start.
I guess there's one more scene at the end of this.
What was it?
Well, when Elsbeth realizes that Imperator has failed and she gets her ring back, says, give me the ring, and then beheads him and then goes with goes with the Gorgon.
Yeah. Well, he's been giving her that good Gorgon dick.
Oh, yeah, that Gorgon dick will do it every time.
Yeah. It's funny because they were recreated very close to each other, these 2 new Marvel characters, right? So you have the Gorgon, and then a few years earlier in Spider-Man, you had Morlun. They almost look like the same dude in a way. Like
they do look very well. They're both drawn by Romita. They both have that tall stature and the long black hair.
Yeah. And they have those names like Morlun, Gorgon.
Yep. I didn't put it together, but now reading this book, looking through the pages here, I see Gorgon, and it's like, he does look a lot. He's wearing the suit like Morlun had. Yeah,
right.
I see it.
Yeah. So yeah,
He gives it to Elsbeth real good.
oh yeah, oh
He turns his
Elsbeth-
dick to stone.
Yeah, that's right. He looks down at it.
Looks down
Yeah,
at
he
it.
looks
That's
at
right.
it. Boom.
Cue Electric Light Orchestra. Turn to stone. All right. Is there anything else about this book that stood out to you guys, good, bad, or ugly? Lloyd, let's start with you.
No, I just reiterate what Stu said. The violence in it, the brutality, was they didn't really hold back. I thought that was pretty good.
All right. Stu.
And I
go ahead.
look forward to more in the next arc.
You know, I wanted to ask you a question before I forget this. Did you guys read? Now, I own the issues, but I can't find them. Did you guys read this on Comixology?
I did.
Okay. Stu?
I had a digital copy.
Okay. So maybe yours is the same. Reading this was fine. Every once in a while, you would get to a splash page that you'd have to turn sideways.
Yeah.
In this one volume in particular, were the letters really fucking tiny on those pages for you guys?
I don't remember that being an issue.
Oh,
But I
fuck.
also don't do the
If you go to
sideways
guided
stuff.
view, you get a nice full screen. So
I didn't do that. Whenever it would go to a turned page,
Yeah.
I'd go, oh, fuck. And I'd turn it, and it would get there, but it would just not be enough.
Yeah.
Hard to read. Okay.
Honestly, I'm just lazy enough that I don't want to turn it sideways and try and make everything smaller. I just flip back and forth on my page. I go across, then I go back, then I cross, then I go back.
You know, you're doing more with all that than if
But
you
I
just
don't want
did
the
this.
I don't want the letters to be small. So.
Okay. All right. Stu, good, bad, ugly. What do you got for this?
I didn't mention early on, this felt a lot like what I guess is to me classic Wolverine, because I was reading the Larry Hama, Mark Silvestri, Mark Teixeira runs on Wolverine in the 90s. And they, in those runs, spent a lot of time with Wolverine over in the East, fighting ninjas, fighting the Hand, being introduced to minor characters from Japan and what have you, and Wolverine's relationship to them. So the first issue of this felt very nostalgic to me, because it's like, oh, here's another character that Wolverine knows from his time in the East, and he's going to go and fight some ninjas. So I thought that was really good comfort food, and then it becomes something else. You do eventually get to the point with this where Wolverine does murder the hell out of like hundreds of people before they get him back, and they, you'll see how they deprogram him. Like, oh, spoiler, they deprogram him. Wolverine is not still evil to this.
No, Stu. Stu, don't ruin this.
Well, they talk about that already.
It's one of those weird things in comics where it's like, if a police officer right now got brainwashed and just went around shooting a bunch of people, you wouldn't just put him back on the force. Like, wouldn't everybody be like, oh, you're a good guy again. It's cool. We forgive you. And I always think that's weird in comics. Like, somebody can just be brainwashed and just like, it's a good
Has he been
excuse.
brainwashed before in other stories?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
People
Who
get
has
brainwashed all the time. Like I'm saying, it's a good excuse in comics when you literally have mind controllers running around, but it's like, there should be more ramifications.
Yeah.
I agree with that. All right. So let's grade this fucker. All right. Let's go to let's start with Stu. He's our guest. Let's ask him, on a scale of 0 to 5, what do you give? Remember, quarter scale, of course. This is Pine Comics. We're not doing that alphabet grade system. Some shows do. On a scale of 0 to 5, issues 20 through 25 of Wolverine Volume 3, subtitled Enemy of the State, available any local comic shop, Boom Tube Comics in Southington, Connecticut, 1475 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike. Is there a shop out your way that you want to give a shout out to?
The one I go to most frequently, it's actually right by my job. It's Phantom of the Attic in Monroeville. I don't have the address to that one offhand, but it's a really good shop. There's a bunch of good shops around me. I'd be remiss not to also mention Infinity Comics in Murraysville or New Dimension Comics in Homestead. Those are all great shops.
I like Murraysville.
Murraysville.
Every time you say Monroeville, I get pissed off. Look, I don't know if we've talked about this, Lloyd. Do you know that Monroeville is where the mall that most guys go to see movies at, did back in the day when movies were a thing, was where they filmed Dawn of the Dead. That's their local mall.
Oh, that is?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Up until the time everything closed and I was working in my office every day, I was at that mall almost every single day, either to get lunch or just get my steps in on my break. Yeah, they have they have a George Romero statue, and there's a big empty storefront that for a while they've been saying they're going to put like a Night of the Living Dead museum in.
We're taking a trip out, Lloyd.
Well, if I'm ever out there in Pittsburgh, PA,
Pittsburgh, PA.
I'm going to stop by Monroeville.
Yeah, I know they have don't they have a big horror con out there? Like Monroe Con or something, or am I wrong on that?
Not that I've heard of. It's entirely possible. I mean, it makes sense because Savini's art school, his makeup school is around here. It's in a little town called Monessen. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Savini and Romero stuff all around here, so I wouldn't be surprised.
All right, enough of crap about your mall. 0 to 5. What do you give Enemy of the Estate?
I'm gonna give it. I'll go with a 3 because, I mean, it is only half of a story at this point. You just kind of get through. You don't really get a resolution until you read the rest of it. So for half a story, I'm going to say it's a 3. There were nice nostalgic elements to it. The storytelling of the art, whether I like the quality of Romita's like characters or what have you, the storytelling and the action, he is fantastic at. What else here? Yeah, just like I said, I like the nostalgia. I like that they were allowed to go brutality and just let it go. Yeah, 3 out of 5.
I'll go next. I'll leave Lloyd for last. I will actually echo Stu. I think what I would give this would be a 2.5 normally, right? I enjoyed the fact that the narrative is different. Like I said, Wolverine it's his book, but he's not the character we're following. We're kind of almost going through and getting slice of life through the Marvel Universe. We're getting to follow the Fantastic Four and then the X-Men and Daredevil and Elektra, Nick Fury, and seeing their perceived idea of Wolverine as a threat and then him popping up as the threat. So I did like that a lot. I give a whole extra 0.50 for Romita's art alone, and the storytelling is fantastic. So I agree. I give this a 3.0. Manster.
3.0. All right. I would start with 2.5 for all the reasons you said. And the Romita art doesn't raise it up a half point for me, although he drew a damn good red T-Bird.
Yeah.
That was a nice looking car. Whew. I'm going to give it a 2.75.
2.75.
Yep.
All right. So that
Hey,
averages.
John, I wanted to ask you real fast. I forgot to ask you this earlier. What is your base level opinion of Mark Millar?
Of everything I've read by him, and I have not read everything.
Right.
I like Millar. I'm not going to say I'm like what do the kids say? A Millar stan. I'm not like I'm not that guy. There's things he's done that I've liked and loved, and there's things he's done that I'm so on. So like perfect example. I love The Authority. I loved The Authority. I loved The Ultimates, the first 2.
Oh, okay.
I loved. Oh, you didn't like it? Weren't a fan? Okay. I loved The Ultimates, and that also has to do with that Brian Hitch art. I love that.
Oh, well, yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Kick-Ass, I really enjoyed the first couple volumes, and I've read some of his other Millar World stuff that was good, but didn't stick with me. You know, like Superior, that was okay. Nemesis.
Did you read Huck?
I read the first issue of Huck and never finished it.
That was pretty good. MPH?
Neil Patrick Harris?
Yeah.
No, MPH, miles per hour.
Oh, no, I did not.
Yeah, that was another good one.
I thought you were talking about Neil Patrick Harris also.
No. So Millar, I'm not hot on him. I like him.
Yeah.
I don't dislike him, but it's not one of those things where I see his name on a book and I got to read it.
Yeah.
Are you the same, or
He's hit or miss for me as well.
Yeah, I think he's like, when he's good, he's fine. But when he's bad, I think he's really bad. Like, I really did not like The Ultimates.
Oh, I love
I
it.
really, really hated Old Man Logan. I think like Mark Millar just has moments where it's just like he can't control himself and he just has to Mark Millar all over a book. And I felt like he didn't do that too much here. Like, nothing was so like, oh, look at me being all wild and whatever. It's not like, you know, Wolverine clawing his way out of the Hulk's stomach after the Hulk eats him, or, you know, do you think this letter on my head stands for France? None of that stuff.
Well, but you see, I get it. Like that France line, it is, but it's the character. It's that version of Captain America.
Yeah, but everybody in that book was so weird. Like Hank Pym uses hornet spray on Janet whenever they're fighting. It's like, oh, okay, that's something. But no, he does do stuff like, I still enjoy Civil War. I still enjoy.
That's one that I'm not a huge fan of.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's all right. I mean, I think they did not do anywhere near a good enough job writing it from a point of view where, like, oh, pick a side. It's like, no, like, clearly made Iron Man the bad guy. Like, there's no picking a side here.
Right.
Did you read Civil War, Manster?
I read the very first 6-issue arc. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it, right?
That's all I need. Well, there was all kinds of tie-ins.
No, but you read Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck all that front line.
Isn't there
and all
Civil
that.
War 2 and all kinds of
Civil
other
War
stuff
2 is
as well?
entirely different. Yeah,
No,
don't worry
there
about
is,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Civil War. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing he's done is called Starlight. It's a 5-issue image series about an aging superhero who gets called back to duty on another planet. That was a fun story.
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Starlight. I would check it out.
Yeah.
Well, you're unfamiliar with it, Stu, because if you listen to your show, Ghost of the Stratosphere, you're kind of almost allergic to indie titles. And Lloyd is almost allergic to big 2 titles. So
I get it. I get it.
And I'm right in the middle. I'll read it all. I don't, and then Sir John, who's not here tonight. So Lloyd loves the indie stuff. You love the superhero stuff for the most part. I'm a nice blend. And John likes the indie stuff that Lloyd's never heard of.
The super indie stuff.
The stuff that was like
you're
Cookie
like
and Peanut Man.
Yeah, the top 5 heroes and villains of indie comics. John was like, no, I'm going like one black and white ash can of edition book came out once. I'm going to talk about that book.
Someone drew it on the back of a pizza menu in crayon and sold it for a dime and made 15 Xerox copies. It's called what was it, Lloyd? Monkey and the Peanut.
yeah, Cookie and the Peanut Man.
Cookie and the Peanut Man, and it sold all 15 copies. Oh, it's so good. It's 2 pages long. All right. So this has been Pint of Comics. You can find us on Twitter at Pint of Comics. You can find us on Instagram at Pint of Comics. You can find us on Facebook. This is all getting very familiar. You can find us anywhere that you can get your pods, right? So go to iHeartRadio, go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, go to any podcatcher on earth. Type in Pint _Comics. Boom, there we are. Stu, where can everybody find the GOTS?
So same thing on all the podcatching apps. We're on there, Ghost of the Stratosphere. I don't think anybody is ever going to steal that name. I think we're pretty much going to be the only one for a while. And Twitter, Instagram, and our website. Go to our website. Our website's awesome. We spend a lot of time writing articles for our site.
It is a great website.
Stratosphere. Yeah, it's gotstratosphere.com. So just abbreviate Ghost of the and then stratosphere.com.
I read your website often on my lunch break at work. It's very good. You guys impress the shit out of me because you've got it together and you're able to get content up every day. And I look at our website and the newest article is from February. So it's okay though. We're working on it. I
haven't written anything in 2 years.
Oh yeah. You started one thing that was really good and just gave up on it. So
yeah,
well,
so bad.
I know this episode won't be coming out for a few weeks or what have you, but guess what I'm going to do sometime between tonight and tomorrow morning?
Write an article.
Well, yes, but about what?
Oh,
new Pop-Tarts.
Oh.
Yeah,
Pop-Tart Quest.
Yeah, bringing back the Pop-Tart Quest because they come out with new stuff so infrequently. But I got the pretzel cinnamon and the pretzel chocolate. So we're going to try those either tonight or tomorrow for breakfast.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to suggest maybe tomorrow morning. That like 9 o'clock at night. That might not be too
for
good.
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Oh, quickly, let me ask you one thing. My daughter made a smoothie before I came down here. Berries, peanut butter, and chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
As long as it's got enough.
I couldn't see it.
As long as the liquid is enough in there. Like, you know what I mean?
Like
as long as it's
chocolate and strawberries is good. Chocolate and peanut butter is good. I can imagine peanut butter on strawberries not being bad. So, I mean, I could see putting all those together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If Dairy Queen sold
I usually
me a
don't
Blizzard,
mix chocolate with berries in a smoothie, but that's just me.
If Dairy Queen sold me a Blizzard that had that as the ingredients, I'd be here for that.
Okay.
All right. Real quick story I want to relate to Stu. It popped in my head, and I don't think I ever brought it up. So Stu was on a couple years ago at this point, the radio show. And me and John had him on the radio show. and we discussed Pop-Tart Quest at that time because that was one of the things I liked a lot about the website was Stu's Pop-Tart articles. I went and saw my parents a couple weeks later, and my dad was listening to the radio show every week. And most weeks he would be like, my dad's, in his 70s. He'd be like, oh, you had that writer guy on and he wrote that book. And yeah, Dad. And this one time I go over and he goes, you had a guy on, you were talking about Pop-Tarts. What the hell was that all about? And I said, yeah, no, that's just a dude from a podcast I kind of know. And he writes about pop. He's like, you were talking about Pop-Tarts for like 20 minutes. I don't know. I shut it off. So
good to know. I'm reaching the audience with the Pop-Tart.
Yeah. So
I do have to say, it hasn't happened in a while, but that's because they don't make new things. In the wake of that episode, once every 2 or 3 weeks, I would get a text from John with a picture of something he'd find at Ollie's or something and be like, you have this one?
I'd be out. I'd see
he was out for me. Yeah, he was looking out.
Yeah. Look, I love that. I miss it. It's been a while. There was a while where it was like Pop-Tarts was just rolling them out. And now they're just like, you know what?
I know.
You don't need new flavors.
No, the last new one before the pretzel one was the Fruit Loops one, and those were atrocious.
Yeah, I read that article.
Do not eat the Fruit Loops Pop-Tarts.
Lloyd, do you want to get us out of here?
See ya.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.